Hello, I'm Rob and this is Joanna. Now Joanna is a huge integral part of the business here at the Malt Miller, and actually she happens to be my wife, and you will probably have seen her out and about at various different events around the country. However, she's not played a part in the video so far, so here we are. So Jo, where do you stand in the beer world?
Like everyone, I love drinking it. The problem I have is I have a slight gluten intolerance, which means that a lot of commercially made beer I struggle to drink. We obviously use an enzyme when we make beer at home.
And we've done that very successfully, actually.
We have, yeah, absolutely, and it has worked really well. And there are some shop bought that I do drink. Generally, when we go out, is a little bit more tricky, definitely.
Okay, so when we're out and about socially, although there'll be plenty of beers on tap, you're not always confident in drinking those, so...
That's when I go for the cider. And today we're going to talk to you about ciders that you can make at home and what your options are.
So, broadly speaking, we've got 3 different ways of making cider at home.
Yes, we do. First option is to buy fruit juice from the supermarket, commonly known as turbo cider. Second is a seasonal option, but it's your fresh fruit from the trees. Third option is a cider kit.
So let's have a look at the simplest way to make cider at home, and this is turbo cider. So how do we go about that?
Okay, so fruit juice from your local supermarket or local shop.
So we're talking about literally the apple juice in cartons?
Absolutely, yeah. You just buy your apple juice in your carton and put it into your fermenter. We sell a massive range of different cider yeasts. So that's the point where you then add your cider yeast to your fruit juice that you've got in your fermenter. It's then going to ferment out. Once it's fermented out, you're going to put it into the appropriate container and drink it.
Okay, so we're looking at a still product if you don't bottle condition, or you can actually add it to bottles, add some sugar to the bottles, re-ferment it in a bottle, and then you've got sparkling cider. So,
absolutely, yeah.
So you can do a still or a sparkling cider.
Yes, you can, yeah. Okay, so we've made turbo cider at home. How would you rate it?
Oh, it's great fun. I really enjoyed the process, and it taught us a lot about fermentation in general.
Yeah.
Once you take the sugar out of apple juice, it actually tastes of very little.
Yeah.
The mouthfeel was relatively thin. Now, there are ways of enhancing turbo cider so that it does give better mouthfeel. However, there are easier ways to brew better cider at home.
Okay, so the second option we've got is to make cider directly from fruit. Rob, how can we go about that?
Basically, the apples need to be chopped up into really tiny pieces because the next process is to press the apples, and if the apples aren't in tiny pieces, you don't get enough juice out of them.
Okay.
So what you want to do is absolutely maximise that juice coming out of the apples. It needs to go through a process, so we need to chop the apples, we need to crush the apples up, and then we need to press the apples to get the juice out. So to do this, we're going to need some equipment. Now the first piece is a fruit mill, also called a scratter. Now this chops the apples up into tiny pieces. We then need to put them through a fruit press. Now we sell fruit presses from 6 litres right through to 30 litres. Once the fruit's gone through the fruit press, we then end up with the pure apple juice.
Okay, so at that point, are we then putting it into the fermenter to let it ferment out? And do we add yeast, or where do we go from here?
2 different routes we can do.
Okay.
So the apples actually have natural yeast on their skins, and it will ferment. Apple juice, put it in a fermenter, airlock on, that apple juice will ferment. Okay. It takes a lot longer, and we're never quite sure what the specific flavour that wild yeast is going to bring out into the final product.
Okay, so that's our natural option. What do we want to do, or how can we do it so that we've got something that gives us a little bit more of a reliable end product? Okay,
so we would need to kill the natural yeast, or at least stun the natural yeast that's contained within the juice, and we do that using sodium metabisulfate. We can then add one of the range of yeasts that we sell, and it's a kind of a much more reliable product. It also ferments quicker than it would be relying on the natural yeast. Our third option is to brew one of the range of cider kits.
Yep, we've got a huge range of different cider kits. They are really quick, good fun and easy to do.
Yeah.
And the end product you'll get is really reliable.
So what you will find is where the kits do differ is at the various different price points, there's more or less included within the kit. Now, some of the kits that you buy, there will be a requirement to buy some extra ingredients.
Okay, so we're going to buy a kit from the lower price bracket. What do we need to add?
Okay, so we basically need to add more fermentables. That's
Yeah.
in the form of sugar. So we can buy a kilo of dextrose or brewing sugar.
Okay.
But for added benefit, Mangrove Jacks make a purpose-made cider enhancer.
Okay, so what does that actually give you?
It'll give us more body
Yeah.
and a crisper final product.
Okay, now we're going to show you how easy it is to make one of our kits. So let's get the equipment together and let's get a brew on.
Now, we sell loads of different types of cider kits here at the Malt Miller, covering various different flavours and various different price ranges. We've chosen to brew one of the higher end cider kits here at the Malt Miller, and that's the Festival Oaked Cider. So we've got our fermenter here.
Yeah.
This has been fully sanitised using a no-rinse sanitizer. You'll notice that there's a tap on the bottom of this fermenter. Now that's going to pay massive dividends later on in the packaging stage of our cider. We have sanitised the outside of the packets of our ingredients.
Yeah.
So obviously I haven't read the instructions. You have read the instructions. Where do we go from here?
I have read the instructions. Okay, first steps for making this: dried fruit in first, followed by the dextrose sugar, and then our oat chips. We're going to put 4 litres of boiling water, and we're going to give it a really good stir up.
Okay, that dissolves the sugar.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
and then we...
Completely dissolves the sugar. Once we've done that, we will add the apple concentrate into the mix. Give it another good stir up.
So we've now added all of our fermentables and flavourings. Now we just need to add our...
Cider enzyme to the mix.
So what do we do next?
Okay, so we're going to leave the mix for 2 hours. We're then going to come back and we're going to top it up with cold water to 23 litres.
So we've left it now for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
That's allowed the enzyme to do its job. Now what that's actually going to do is help us to have a clearer final product.
Okay, brilliant, fantastic. So we're now going to add the cold water
Yep,
up
we
to
need
the 23 litre
top
level.
up to 23 litres, yeah.
Okay.
So we've used our trial jar and our hydrometer to take a gravity reading. Now that measures how much sugar is in the cider at the moment. We will then take a further gravity reading once fermentation is finished. We do a calculation between the two, and that gives us our alcohol content.
Okay, so we've got 2 products left from our kit. One is the cider yeast and nutrient, and the other is a sweetener. We're going to add the cider yeast and nutrient because that's the final element that's essential for our kit. The sweetener, we're not. I prefer a dry, full-bodied cider, so I don't want to add this extra sweetener. It's your choice. If you like something a little bit sweeter, put it in. If you don't, then it's not needed.
It's your kit, you brew it how you like.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's how easy it is to make your cider kit. There are a couple of points you really need to consider and pay close attention to.
Yeah, one of the really important things is the fermentation temperature. Now, read the instructions on your specific kit. On our kit, it said ferment between 20 and 25 degrees. That's really important. If it goes below that temperature, it might not ferment at all. And if it goes above, then really it could be throwing some off flavours that you don't want in your cider. The second one is you need to measure the gravity when you think that your cider is finished fermenting. And that gravity reading needs to be stable for 2 clear days.
Okay, that's our cider made. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like.
And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter.